Oh, we've got just about 1 minute to get started, but in the meantime, welcome everybody. This is our free class that we do every single month. Every month we have a free class, different speakers, different topics, and so on. But tonight is a very, very special class with Larry Zimberg and Deb Drummond. You're going to get to know those two before long. They're both great, great participants and speakers and have a lot of good experience in the direct selling profession, both in party plan. Deb owned her own party plan company and in network marketing. So wherever you land, you're going to get something from tonight. Make sure you've got your paper and your pencil out and you're ready to take some good notes because this is the best part. What's coming up now is going to rock your socks and you're going to go, I want more, I want more. And so we've arranged for more for later. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over first to Deb, and she's going to start us off. So Miss Deb Drummond, you're on.
Well, thank you kindly, Miss Nicki Keohohou. And so nice to meet you. If I haven't met you before, what a pleasure. And I hope that we'll be having a chance to do a lot more trainings together. And of course, Larry, thank you so much. It is so much fun to be here with you, tag teaming. We both love many things, but direct sales is absolutely one of them. And I've had a pleasure to meet when Nicki was talking about how I used to own my own party plan company. And that's how I first met Nicki and Grace, being a member, a paid member for the DSWA. So we go back a few years, and thank goodness direct sales has some great skincare products in there. Everyone's looking fab. We look fabulous. All right. I am going to talk about one of my most, I don't know, it gets me going. It's a very exhilarating topic because for me, it's very undershared. It's a very undershared. And I think those of us in direct sales, we love when we have some advantage, when there's something new in the sector, new in the industry, new for us to use to help build our teams and build our businesses. And I can definitely say from someone who's, my first home party I went to, I was 8. So I was my mom's helper in direct sales. So I've been doing this for a little while, and then got into it myself in my 20s, which you can clearly see I'm not anymore. So when I see something new or I see something exciting and something that's really easy to ease into, I get very excited. And I love to share that. And I want to share that with you in terms of media. So when I say, you know, if anyone wants to put their hand up and say, who's in media, you mostly probably think social media, right? I want to focus a little bit on media that is one-to-many. So we talk about that, right? You can have a conversation with someone at your local coffee shop, and that's a meeting that's one-on-one. Super cool. And then we got into social media, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn or what have you. And now you're doing one-to-many. I remember still how sick I was to my stomach, and I've, stood, I've stood on stage and taught 20,000 people, but I still got sick to my stomach when I had to do my first Facebook Live, right? Like anyone was going to keep it, like it was going to be an archive to somewhere or something. And so for those of us that have gone through that Facebook Live scene or posting, I want to introduce, if you've never been on a podcast or used podcasts to build your business or build your exposure to having people join your product or your business, that's what I want to introduce you to today. Can I have a show of hands a little bit on who's been on a podcast? Who's been a podcast guest before? Okay. Oh, I'm so excited to share this with you. How many people have listened to a podcast? Right? We've listened to a podcast. Awesome. That's great. So you're 90% of the way there. Have any of you ever done a presentation for your business, talked about your business to either one person or to many? Like if you had a one-on-one coffee shop, or have you gone, yeah, you all have? Okay, good. Because when I say podcast, some people go, they just like, I don't know if I could do that. If you've sat at a coffee shop and you've had a conversation with someone about your business or your products, you can. Because the beautiful thing, much like Facebook or Facebook Lives, who's done a Facebook Live here? Who's done a live, gone on and braved up and like, okay.
Not in a long time.
Not in a long time? Okay, perfect. But you know the experience. What I want to say about being a guest on a podcast, it's actually easier than doing a Facebook Live. And I'll tell you why. Because people get nervous about doing Facebook Lives because they're like, oh, people are going to see me and people can do emojis and I'm supposed to remember their name. And there's all this interactive when you're really literally just, oh my gosh, get me on and get me off this thing. But when you do a podcast, it is no different than when you're talking to your team on a Zoom. Honestly, it's so easy. And it is very, very, very underutilized in our industry. And I can tell you why, because I own a podcast company, I own a media company, and I can tell you the media exposure that can happen from being on a podcast will blow your mind. And the reason why is it's one to many, and you're not going to believe me when I tell you. And please do believe me, because I just had a woman who was on our podcast, and it's been opened 910 times. And I can promise you that if I was going to just, throw that nickel out there, I'm pretty sure that if any of you done Facebook Lives, it's not been seen 910 times. Because mine hasn't, and I understand algorithms, and you don't even understand algorithms for that. So what I want to tell you is that when you do a podcast, it's no different than you showing up here today and having your camera off, right? And so Sherry, if me and you were having a conversation, I'd be like, so Sherry, tell me about yourself. And you'd like, hey, Deb, and you'd tell me about yourself. And then I'd be like, what's one of the things that gets you so excited when you get up in the morning? And you're like, feeding my cat and taking care of my team. Do you know what I mean? Oh my gosh, what do you mean? And based on the show that you're on, and I'm going to tell you some of the good shows to be on, we're having a conversation. No one's even interrupting us. We're not having little things coming up on our Facebook and oh my gosh, and hey, and cheers and hearts. And there's nothing. We're having a conversation like we're on a Zoom, like we're in a Starbucks or a Tim Hortons or wherever you are and whatever it is that you like. It is literally the easiest thing that you've ever done. If you are not the person that likes to be on camera, good news for you, 87% of podcasts are only audio. Now, I'm going to tell you as someone who's in media, get on camera if you can brave it up. Because the bottom line is the more you're seen is the more you're seen. And people can see your expression and they can feel your energy and they can see how excited you are. Because you can go, I'm so excited. Like, let me do it. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to be here, right? There's a complete different energy about that. So brave up and get onto podcasts that have video and audio. So it's no different than what you've been doing. 1. 2, it is too many. And why is it too many? So I'm using Facebook as an example because I'm just going to assume you all know what it is. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm going to make a pretty good assumption. So when you go onto a podcast, you go on to their audience, and if you do your podcast correctly, your audience. So instead of being on Facebook or your Instagram or your this, which is just your audience, now you've doubled. So you've just doubled your exposure just by braving up and being on one. That's one thing. The second thing is, again, you're not going to believe me, but you have to trust me, that each podcast you do is worth 2 years of content. 2 years. 2 years. So people are like, I don't know what to post. I don't know what to post. I don't know what to post. Well, let me tell you, do a podcast a week and your content funnel will be filled. Now, what's really cool is that the reason why a podcast is worth 2 years is because if you've done a 20-minute, a 25-minute, a 30-minute, whatever content, I tell you, you can pull 10 sentences easy out of that podcast that you did. So for example, let's say I was on Larry's podcast and Larry's podcast was about, shock me, music, right? And so I go on that podcast and we have this great conversation how we love music and we pull things out and I share things. And one of my favorite memories was me and my son jumping on the coffee table when I introduced him to Supertramp and, he was all excited and I have all these stories to tell. Now, when I send that podcast out, right, first of all, the person who does the show does all your show notes with your website, with your links, with your Instagrams. You don't have to, they do it for you. And you send it out and you're like, I can't believe I shared on Larry's show the song that me and my son danced to on our coffee table. Send it out. Then, do you know what I'm saying? Do you see where I'm going? You can send it. I can't believe when I shared oh my gosh, at my conference, they always sing this song, and I shared it on the show. So anyways, we can talk a little more. I can get into podcast marketing, but you get the idea. Now, here's the truth. The truth is, when you send out something on your Facebook and you have 1,000 people, I'm saying 1,000 for easy math. If you are a rock star on Facebook, 100 people will receive it. So how many times do you stop and watch a show for 20 minutes when it comes up in your feed? Very few of you. So you absolutely have to send it over and over and over again. And people get all worried. They're like, but if I send it, 2 or 3 times a week for like the next couple of months, my friends are all going to leave me because all they've done is seen it. 1, they haven't seen it. 2, if you know anything about impact, people have to see things 5 times to even register. And 3, 8 to 12 times. So you need to send that podcast over and over and over and over and over again, because the algorithms of people that saw it are so little. No one's going to say, no one's going to say, oh, I saw that every day for 2 weeks. Look at you. You know what they're going to go? They're going to go, oh my gosh, what's Sherry up to? What show is she on? What's going on with her? What's going on with her? What's happening to her business? Because you're sending it out and you're sending it out. And ooh, now you're going to go do your second podcast. And you're going to send your second podcast out with your first podcast. How many people understand third-party endorsement? Do you guys have someone that you use for third party? Have you ever had a third party call? Okay, Larry, you got to teach these people about third parties because no one's putting their hand up. Okay, third-party endorsement. Thank you, Amanda. When you go to somebody to endorse you, when you go to somebody to endorse your company, when you go to somebody to endorse the product and you step out of the way and you let them do it, podcasts are the best third-party endorsement you can get, because someone took an hour out of their time to talk to you about what makes you excited about your business, and they took it and sent it to their audience. I mean, there's really nothing better. So I want to introduce the idea of podcasts, because honestly, you need to start looking at getting on podcasts, because the impact is so time-saving, and the impression is so important. I live in Vancouver, Canada, and I live in what's called Hollywood North. And so we have a lot of movies that are made here because it's better pricing. and have you not all walked by or had the chance? Have you ever walked by when people are shooting a movie or a commercial, and don't you kind of do this? I mean, I'm in Hollywood North. I see it all the time. I'm like, oh gosh, there's the, craft. I almost could go into the craft truck and get something to eat. And you're like, okay, everybody wants to see. I promise you, you start sending out some podcast stuff. You start saying, ooh, I can't wait to share with you. Oh, da-da-da-da-da. And people are going to go, what's going on with her? Like, what's Amanda up to? Like, check her out, because it's going to be new, and you're going to send it and you're going to go on another one. And they are automatically attracted, because we are automatically attracted to media. It's wired in there. We're like, ooh, what's going on? And who was she on that show with? And it is such, it's such great credentials. It's such great credentials. It's like when you go to other people's, I don't know, websites or landing pages or social media, and you go, oh, NBC, you see a media badge, you automatically give them credentials. You do. You may not want to, but it happens in here. So when you start doing podcasts, it's one to many. So you spend an hour on a show, 20 minutes on a show, half an hour, and your capacity for exposure is higher. You can use it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again for 2 years. And I'm going to tell you how to make sure you do that is, when you are talking, do not time stamp yourself. Oh my gosh, I just came from my granddaughter's birthday and she turned 5. Well, she's going to be 7 when you're still using this podcast. So don't do that. Don't time stamp yourself, right? So that's one way that podcasts are advantageous, because of just the image alone. Even if you went on there and blah, 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 right? You're going to blow off some podcasts. They're not going to be your best podcasts in the beginning when you're starting. No problem. But before you get on a podcast, you know what? 2 things. One is make sure you're on the right podcast. right? Now I could go on to a music podcast. I'm not in the music industry. I'm not going on for business. I'm going on for personal branding, right? I'm going on because it's what I do and it's what I love. And it's giving me personal satisfaction. And I don't just tell my people everything that I do for business all day, but they're like, of course, Deb's on a music podcast because she gigs music, right? So if you gig, whatever you do, so it's still branding, personal branding or business branding. But if you're looking at doing this for your business, then find what you love. Honestly, even if you love animals and there's a correlation to you being on an animal show that allows you to have exposure, to be known in that community. If you know, there's, oh, we got a picture of a dog. Way to go, Patty. So you can bounce off that. Hey, we're here. I don't sell aromatherapy. I sell aromatherapy. And oh my gosh, I use it on my pets all the time. It's so amazing. So you can go on to shows and talk about a product. You can go on to shows and talk about the lifestyle match. Maybe you earn a trip every year, and maybe you're on a travel show and you get to say, oh my gosh, I have seen the world. One of the ways that I do that is through my business, but then you start talking about, Mexico or Rome or what have you. Make sure there is a tie-in to your business, not because someone said, hey, my girlfriend's got a podcast and you can get on there and it's not going to cost you anything. And you're like, oh, that's really great. I'm going to go on there. But their audience isn't really your audience and your audience really isn't theirs. You know what I mean? Go spend your time where you're going to get your highest return of investment. If you've not done a show before, practice them off, practice it off, be on camera, practice a few times, but come up with questions that the interviewee, so I interview a lot of people and sometimes people will give me questions, right? Give me questions to ask them. So it's really easy when you already know what you're going to get asked. You feel way more at ease, you feel way more comfortable, and that's awesome. So these are easy questions that you can answer. Don't make it all about your business, make it about the benefits of your business. It's not all about your company unless you're on an executive podcast. Make it about the things that audience wants to hear. Now I'm going to talk about the kind of shows to go on, and I'm going to wrap up in a little bit because I'm sharing the stage today with a rock star that you want to hear from. So when you're picking your show, Larry looks around. When you're picking your show, pick something that there's a common denominator, not because it's free, okay? Second, have questions prepared in case they ask you for that. 3, be prepared to do your part. Here's the deal. 90% of podcasts don't make it past their first year because most of them are free. Now, I truly believe in pay to play. Even if it's a $20 donation, a $40 donation, a $50 donation. Podcasts, okay, for me, massive exposure, we all can agree, is TV. Next level is live stage and online stage summits. And the next one is podcast. Okay, so if you're going to go into a podcast and you're going to go into a podcast that doesn't charge you anything, you've given them no marketing dollars. And most people after a year don't like to work for free, and you don't either. So my suggestion is if there's a donation, pay it. The reason why is because that's going to give them the money to take your show to market. Marketing a show costs money. And so that's one reason why to go to pay to play, because if they have no marketing money, they're going to count on you for marketing. So when a podcast, it happens, like I own a podcast, and the fantasy when people open up podcasts is that, oh, I'm going to invite guests and they're going to market the show. You're coming to the show going, they're going to market me. It's a relationship, hoping that each other does, I hope you do the dishes. I hope you do the dishes, but no one's doing the dishes. Well, guess what happens? It's not very pretty. So you want to be able to do something. If they're a free show and they're like, no, that's okay. That's fine. Say, I'd like to give you a donation anyways. And I'm going to tell you why. Because if you want to go back to that show, most shows, if they do one a week, there's only 52 weeks in a year. They're not doing it Christmas or Hanukkah or Easter or whatever their celebration time is. So maybe they're going to do 45 shows. Well, I can tell you, as someone who's been on this side of it, the people that are the most vetted, interested, marketing the show, send in a donation. I mean, ours is a monetized show, but if they send in a donation or they send me a gift, You would be crazy not to send them products of what you sell or services of what you sell or something like that. You'd be crazy not to. You will be invited back next time. And then you're going to start to build a relationship with that host. And then you're going to be able to say to that host, hey, do you know any other shows that I should be on? Because just like you all know good companies and you all know good people, so do podcast hosts. And we know good people that have good shows. And so you're building a relationship, and you are in relationship business, and it's going to work for you in the long run. So from a podcast standpoint, I would encourage you to explore that. It is what people are doing in their business. I'm not seeing it as much in direct sales as I see it in every other sector, probably because we have different things that are offered and supported to us through our companies, and companies are not recommending that everyone gets on podcast stage and summits and TVs and what have you. But as business owners of your own business, we know that it's our responsibility to expand outside that box and really get in front of. I can tell you that for me, that was one of the major components of how I got myself across the stage over and over again. For me, I made decisions on doing some marketing and media that weren't necessarily in my kit. One of those was trade shows. I was able to get to #1 in 10 countries out of 200,000 people by getting in front of people on the trade show floor. Podcasts can be your next trade show. One thing I'm going to say before I go, I'm going to pass this over to Mr. Zimberg, is that when you are on a podcast, and it is a visual podcast, everything matters. Everything matters. So do you see how you're seeing me sit like here, right? And so not to use you as a bad example, Sherry, but you wouldn't do a podcast that low because it doesn't balance the wall, right? So you would maybe tilt your computer down or tilt your computer up. You would, perfect, right? The other thing is your background matters, because I'm looking. So Deborah, that's great. You've muted out your background. On a podcast, it's not so great when you have like your big background of your business banner or what have you. Most podcasts are going for that authentic edge, but it's okay to have your products here. It's okay to have your certificates here. It's okay to have your lanyard hanging from your conference, right? Those are the kind of things that are great in your background because they're subtle. Like, this is an award that I won. I can't really see it, but you could put, whatever it is that you want there. Background matters, your position matters. And I'll tell you that people will trust you more. I think it's something like 26%. It's very high when they can see your hands. So if you're not Italian and you don't normally do this, right? So Sherry Wen, she's Italian, but talk with your hands, talk with your hands, talk with your hands, talk with your hands. Even if you sit here, sometimes if you ever see me, I'll sit here and I've trained myself, I'll play with my ring and I'll talk. If people can see your hands compared to this, they will trust you more, they will believe you more, and they will lean in more. So yeah, there you go. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Thank you so much for having me today. The other thing is when you get on a podcast, don't talk about 5 things, talk about 1, maybe 2. Be very clear when you go on what your end result's going to be. What do I want from this podcast? I want 5 people to buy my sunscreen. Cool. Then your story should be around sunscreen. And when the host says to you, and is there anything else you'd like to share? And you go, yeah, go to, I'd love people to go to my website, ... .com. That would be so great. You can say, you know what? Thank you so much. Yes, I would love everyone to go to my website. And I'd love for you to go to this one product that honestly, I can't stop. Tell them one thing to do. One thing to do, and don't make it a general thing to do. And don't worry about losing the masses. You won't lose the masses, but drive them to one easy thing because that's what you talked about on that show. There's lots more I can tell you in details on how you can have lots of really great success, but I think I've given you enough to munch on. And I hope if anything, I've given you enough to do not be afraid. I promise you, this is so new in your industry, and in our industry, people aren't doing it. Go forefront it. Go forefront it. Go be the pioneer of podcasts for you and your team. It'll be a game changer. Anyways, thank you for listening. I hope you took some notes. And if we have time for Q&A, we will. And if not, I'm sure we'll see you at another class, and you know where to find us. We're hanging out, we're hanging around in the DSWA hood. So with that, Nicki, I will pass it back to you.
Thank you so much, Deb. I think we all have a few pages of notes. This is good. And there's more, and we'll have more information about our masterclass that's going to come up that you can take, and you'll get a lot more detail there. We're going to go full on into each of these subjects. But for right now, I'm ready to turn it over to our network marketer extraordinaire, Mr. Zimberg. Here you go. You're on.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining. Yeah, I just have to say one thing about my partner. It's one thing to be good at something. It's another thing to be able to teach it and be a great communicator. And she just rocks. In fact, we both rock. See, I got my Jimi Hendrix t-shirt on for you. She's got Fleetwood Mac and Janis Joplin behind her. So it's no wonder we kind of do this. But I just want to make one comment about what Deb just covered. When I first heard about this, because I've seen her teach many times, it reminds me of, because I'm not a kid. I know Deb said she's not 20, she's 28. I'm much older than that. But it reminds me of the time when the internet started and Facebook and social media and I gotta do a video, and it could be very intimidating for some. Now, I had been on a stage for most of my life. I used to play guitar for a living, so it didn't scare the heck out of me, but it was a new learning curve. But one thing I knew was I just got involved in an industry where if there's no people, there's no business, and I had to get out there, right? And how do I find the people? And this is the value of what Deb just talked about, because imagine if you were the first in article marketing, and if you were the first in Facebook, and if you were the first doing your thing on Instagram, and we all need to find that funnel. We need a commodity called people to make this work. So getting access to a whole new funnel to tap into and learning that, don't be afraid of that, because it's no scarier than anything else. Everything's difficult for it's easy, but the value of that is tremendous. And podcasts are like this much of media, because media is everything. And that's the deep dive she's doing in the masterclass that I get to do with her. So shameless plug. So I'm covering sponsoring, and there's a real difference between sponsoring people and signing them up. It's a different mindset, different philosophy, different actions. And I know this because I was new once. And I've been the recipient of somebody doing a get started right, game plan, whatever you want to call it, with me 3 or 4 times. I think the 4th time I was just there for a minute. But I've been in the business 30 years, and I'm the stick and stay guy. So I've only had a few of them. I've been in one company 10 years, another one 12, 13 years, 14 years. So I was on the receiving end of one of these, and I had one very, very excellent get started right interview with somebody, and 3 really bad ones. So I learned what to do, but more importantly, I learned what not to do. And yeah, I know the promo said top recruiter and all that. And I have been a longtime top recruiter because I love the business so much. I share it a lot and usually have led with it in my 30-year career. So I've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of get started right interviews, as we call them. You might call it something else, your company, your branding of whatever leadership you're with calls it something else. But I'm really glad we have a few minutes here, because the easiest and fastest way to build your business to expand your empire is by beginning theirs. Hands down. Easiest way to expand your business is by beginning theirs. And you didn't do all that work, and I know it's work to bring somebody on, some more than others, of course. You're getting the exposure, you're doing follow-ups, maybe you're doing a three-way call, you're going back and forth, you're exchanging information, appointments, they're showing, they're not showing. You finally bring somebody on. Feels like the finish line, right? No. You didn't do all that work to have it stop there. That is where the real work starts. And you have to bring choice. And listen, just like Deb and I here today, we've got a very short window with you. We had to make choices about what bullet points, what highlights of these very in-depth subjects to really, truly master. We had to make choices about what we were going to share with you. It's a real 30,000-foot view. It's very high level right now. And it's the same for anybody you bring into your business. You got to make choices when you bring in someone regarding what steps you're going to be going through with them, because there's such a thing as too much and paralysis by analysis, and that's a very real thing. But when you bring somebody on board, I want you to just envision this, okay? You have a certain amount of time to do what you need to do with them in a lot of cases. Actually, in most cases. And I want you to look at that as soon as you bring them on board, I mean, the moment credit card goes down and something gets signed, you have to envision that an hourglass is being turned over, and your ability to do with them what you need to do with them is going to run out as well. And you need to get them started. And you need to meet who they know while they're new and excited and willing to take some steps with you. And you can't tell them everything because they're at their highest level of anxiety and their lowest level of knowledge. And it's not a good combination, right? And they're also concerned. They're wondering whether they can do this and if they have the time to do this. We were all new ones, right? Everybody on here? We were all new ones. We all had our doubts. No matter how much we wanted it, no matter how much we needed this, and what we hoped it would do for our family or our future or our lives, no matter how much we believed in what we just signed up for, no matter what our why was, we had our doubts. Doubts about ourselves, doubts about the time it would require, and on and on. That's what, always remember what it's like to be new when you're having this interaction with your new person. So here's my first golden tip. Write this down. Number one, tread lightly on new people. You have to make smart choices as to what you're going to share with them, and there's priorities, right? You want to do the first things first and the second things not at all. Tread lightly on new people and know that with most people, you've got a very short window to do a few important things. Like time, right? You got to be very, very conscious of what they say to you when you sit down with them and do this get started right interview, whatever you're calling it, because most people don't have a lot of time. It's their number one concern. Well, it's parallel with whether they can do it, but it's about time. Do they have the time to do it? How do they squeeze it in? And here's the thing. We're all excited, but you've got this new person, height of anxiety, lowest level of knowledge, but we're fired up. And we want to give them the things that we know are going to help them be successful, right? And we all belong to companies and they have a schedule and your leadership has a schedule. And if you bring somebody on, and if I say to Amanda, hey, Amanda, so glad to have you on board. Listen, we're going to schedule a couple of parties. We're going to make a list. We're going to invite a bunch of people too. We want to do that right away so we can get you paid and promoted. And listen, the company has a Monday night university. That's your training ground. You want to be on that. And on Tuesday, we have a new rep call, which is specifically for you, which is going to give you some extra bonus information. It's going to help you be successful. And oh, by the way, Amanda, the timing of you coming on board couldn't be more fortunate because this Saturday we have a regional right in your area. I mean, you know what I'm saying? They came in thinking they didn't have enough time, and I just confirmed it for them. And I'll never get them back. So here's my suggestion about the choices. Give people just a few things they believe they can do, a few things they can actually see themselves doing, and they'll participate. They will. And of course, you'll determine that kind of time and their tolerance for things when you sit down, go through their why and goals and stuff, which should be short. But if you dump the kitchen sink on them, good luck. And I'm telling you this because I was new once and I sponsored people and I went, go, 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 you know, but they weren't where I had to learn the hard way. But the most important thing that you accomplish among those priorities, and it was one of the bullet points in the promo, write this down. Your sole objective is to get their business open. Now, we want to get them a paycheck. We want to get them a victory. We want to give them some confidence. But you've got to get their business open. And I have conversations with people because you got to inoculate them, right? I let them know, listen, there's a lot to know. I'll be talking to Amanda, who I'm going to keep picking on you. I'm sorry. And I'll say, listen, Amanda, there's a lot to know, right? It's like anything else. It's like you learning a new trade, a new skill, a new sport. There's always a lot to know. But right now, I just want to focus on what you need to know to get started and to get paid and to get promoted. Is that okay with you? I don't even want them in their back office. I want to pare that down to just a few actions that we're going to take together. And I'll cover that in a minute. Do I have a minute? Yeah. Okay. Because I'm just looking to create a victory for them for sure. But people will evolve if you give them a chance, right? If you don't put out their fire right away. They'll be willing to engage more. They'll be willing to do more. They'll be willing to learn more. But they have to see that it's feasible. And hopefully that it works. They have to find value in devoting some time to this. So quick story. I had a woman start in New Jersey. Anybody from New Jersey? Really? Okay, so I'll save my comments. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, Lola. I'm kidding. That's because you dissed the song. So that was on before, maybe some of you. Sorry. So she got started in New Jersey, and I got her to do I'm cutting straight to the chase here. There's a better, longer story, but I got her to take a couple steps. We got her first 3 customers in about a week, working together. One of them was at the end of the first cutoff for getting paid, you know, weekly. But she was ecstatic. She was ecstatic. And also it kind of lightened the load for her family. I don't know if you know what that's like, you know, if you got a husband, skeptical family. And she got paid because it was electronics, she got paid $18.12. Not the lottery, $18.12. It was enough proof that it worked. She was ecstatic. From that, she was willing to do a little more, spend a little more time. I could give her a little more. I could now show her this fabulous training that'll help her double, triple. We ended up getting 9 customers, which in the company I was in was a bonus of $150 if you got 9, on top of the commission. Bonus of $150 because you got 9 customers in 30 days. Plus, you could also fast start, the fast start bonus, fast start qualify, first 30. We also had one of those, and that paid her another $200 because she fast start qualified. It didn't pay as much as if you got it through signing up business partners, reps, bringing on, sponsoring a couple people. That was even more, but that was $200 plus $150 plus the commission on it. Now, look out. Floodgates open. She had all kinds of time she never had before. You know what I'm saying? So give people a chance. Focus in on 1 or 2, 3 things at most where you think you can help them create a victory. And my suggestion is whatever your company offers, take the path to least resistance. Because my company, we could have gotten that same, bonus if I helped her sign up reps, if I helped her recruit some people. But I knew that there's time for that. And I'm a recruiter. I lead with the business. But that's not my goal here. And it's not about me. It's about giving my person some confidence that this works, some proof that it works, and helping her get a victory. And I know that helping her get a few customers is easier than helping a couple people sign up for a network marketing company. You know what I mean? Take the path to least resistance. Next, main point. You've got to do this with them. Too many times I see people bringing people on board. They spend an hour with them, and then they're like, go get them. They send them out to go do some things. Well, go get them's a suicide mission. It is. It just is. And they're going to get knocked out. The first person that says, you're doing what? What are you talking? What? With the aliens, bring my friend back? Because what? Do it with them. It's worth it for you. These are the practices, the strategies. These are the activities that you do want to devote the majority of your time to, right? Because everybody that comes in has a Verizon network behind them, and you need to meet who they know while they're willing to introduce you to them. And that's the difference between signing somebody up and sponsoring them. Just think about it. You have a business. It's a small business. There's only a couple of employees. You bring a new person on. You give them an orientation for an hour, 2 hours. You train them. Then you say to them, hey, Amanda, I'm going to be leaving on vacation now. So you're one of the people running things. See you in a few days. How do you think my business is going to, what kind of shape it's going to be in when I come back? Would you ever do that? Would you leave an infant in a room for a day or two? Because that won't go well. That person, that's what you're doing. You're leaving a new person in charge of your business by spending a little time with them and sending them out to get slaughtered. But if Amanda and I spent an hour together, and then I was there the next few days, and we were doing her duties that whatever her job profile covered, and we were doing it together, would Amanda have a chance? Yes. She'd have a good chance. And that's the difference between signing somebody up and sponsoring them. Now, Amanda might not come back to work in 2, 3 days. That happens. And your people might not stick around. That certainly happens. But that's got nothing to do with your end of things. So, you know, they need to borrow your confidence. They need to borrow your belief. Your posture is very important. This is your opportunity to lead. And here's the other very important reason, and the last point you want to write down, that you need to devote yourself completely and commit to investing in getting people started right. And that reason is you. Because you have a business too. Right? Don't you? All of you? You all have a business too. And we know that some people just coming on for, they could have the most heart-wrenching why in the world, but their friend says boo and they're gone. People do not stick around in our business for various reasons. You know, it's not personal. It's just where they're going is not this, and you need to be okay with that. But you need to meet who they know, because it's not who they are, but who they might lead you to. And you have to take advantage of that opportunity again while they're willing to take some steps towards getting the word out. Imagine what your business would look. I don't know. I'm making assumptions here. I don't know if you have a big team or a team at all. But if you do, imagine what your business would look like if you got the word out to 10 or 20, 30 people for every new person that joined. Right? That's our business. Exposure is everything. You know, oh my gosh. I almost said Edison. You know, Einstein's theory of relativity, MC squared or whatever. My theory here is MC equals MC, which is minimal contact with people equals a minimal check, moderate contact equals a moderate check, and massive contact equals a massive check. This is an opportunity for you to expand your business by getting them started right in theirs. So the last point I'm going to make is this, and I think it was the last point on the sheet, which is how to duplicate and grow from this one action. I think was the fourth bullet point. I'd love to get in some help here, but I think that was it. After learning what not to do, after messing up so many times, and after learning the value of being able to work through my new person as if that list was my list, and be their shoulders and be their business partner in them opening their business, and be the rock they can't be right now. I learned how to get pretty good at these, which activities were most crucial, what information to go through with them in this Get Started Right meeting that we had. Again, not everything's important, right? At this time. But once I got that down and that duplicated, because I did it with them, guess what I could say to them? Remember that thing we did? You know, that's what we did with, and if I did the right thing with them, they'd be willing to let me do that with their people. Notice I said, let me do that with their people, because I don't send a new person out to train a new person. So every new person that came on board, until I was able to start building where I had captains who could train the lieutenants, who could move it down to the sergeant, we got it down to the troops, sorry for the military reference, I was doing them for all new people coming on board. And then some people did it. Now, how did I create duplication? Because I installed a system to create duplication. So if I got Amanda started, and as she's bringing a few people on board, because Amanda's a rock star, I can see it through my camera. When she got a few people on board, I would say to Amanda, hey, Amanda, we're going to do your first few together. First of all, that was like, for her, thank you, right? Because that's what my ring light did for me. There goes the ring light. Excuse me. Okay, sorry. My experimentation with technology. It's wonderful. So that's what remember I said I had one exceptional sponsor? That's what he did with me. He said, listen, your first few people, I'll do it. I'll handle it. And you'll be a witness, right? And then you do them. I changed that up a little bit. I'd be like, hey, Amanda, we're going to do the first few together. I'm going to do the first one. The second one, you're just going to introduce me. The third one, we're going to work for a minute together, and you're going to do the first section, and I'll take the bulk of it. After we got through with a few of them, I could take the training wheels off. But you have to have a way to do that. Again, you wouldn't leave a new person in charge of your business. You'd spend time with them. You'd let them get some experience under their belt. I did that same thing. Listen, we tell people, hey, we have a system, right? Cookie cutter business. You don't have to figure it out. It's been figured out for you. And that can't just be lip service. So bringing somebody on board, right, and walking them through a few steps and making sure that they take those steps with you is the key to you being able to tap in, whether they stick around or not, get the word out to that list. Now, in the masterclass that we're doing, Deb and I, she's doing a deep dive into media because podcasts are just a tiny element of all of the things that are coming. And you don't want to miss out on being in the forefront of that, of anything that's come down the pike to help you tap into a larger funnel. I'm going to be actually going through a Get Started Right interview, what activities I schedule, how I get them to make their list. What are the things I do with them step by step in a real detailed deep dive? Because that's what's truly valuable when you have that experience. It's so worth it. So I'm going to turn it over to Nicki, and thank you guys. Nicki, we don't hear you in case
I
you.
know, and you can't even see me. Sorry about that.
And we're
Well,
seeing like a PowerPoint
I do. I got it
setup.
right
Well,
here.
that was great. Let's do a clap for
Larry
Larry. That
and
was
Deb.
awesome. That was good stuff. I was like taking some notes.
That's so good. It's wonderful when you have people with this kind of current experience. It makes a big difference. And they've done this and done it and done it and proven that it works. So really good to listen and to come back. So that's what I'm going to share with you here is this masterclass that's coming up. And it's going to be Deb and Larry. I'm going to host the class, but they are really the experts on this. It's coming up July 15th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Take a picture of this if you'd like, so that we can do a deep dive into these things that really are of interest to you and are happening today that we need to get very good at in order to grow our businesses in a big way. So this master class is going to be sponsored like the pros, and then media stacking is what Deb's going to do. So you'll learn a lot from them. And it includes on the media stacking, it's how to get the most out of your media exposure you could ever imagine to leverage your direct selling business. This is what Deb does. She is an expert at it. She's been doing it for a long time, and she can answer every question that you might have in this process. And of course, Larry, the sponsoring king, is about accelerating. It's going to be a deep dive into a high-level sponsorship. You're going to get a lot out of this one also. So you want to get registered. And you can go to the events page, dswa.org/events, and you'll see the masterclass on that page. And Larry, you have something to share?
Yeah, I just I don't know if you know, because we just worked this out beforehand, Deb and I. So I this sounds so pitchy and salesy and I hate it, but I wanted to give you guys something for being here because you're the only one. So if you register, I mean, you're the only, you guys are the ones that showed up. We wanted to get you a carrot for that because I know what it's like to carve out that time and to sit. Believe me. So if you register by tonight, there's a code. It's all caps, save, SAVE, and the number 10, save 10. So I think it's $99. It's not this DSWA, but it's 99 and it'll be 89 for you guys because you took the time to come here. It's not a condemnation on people who couldn't make it. Don't blame, I don't know. Maybe I'm throwing myself under the bus here. I don't, but I wanted.
It's the party swag bag. You show up to the party, you get a swag bag, right?
So if you register by midnight, it's save. That's midnight
Pacific.
Pacific.
Wherever you are.
Well, it's 3 Eastern, midnight Pacific. Yeah. If you're in Hawaii, get off your surfboard, go register, and save 10. And we would love to see you because we want to help you build. And you need to fill that funnel to do that and be successful at it. So thank you for being here. Sorry.
It's okay. Thank you, everybody. And thanks for offering that special for everyone. So I'll be here and hopefully you will too. And you can invite your associates and other people from your company. Even if they weren't on this class, they can still come to that master class. So thank you, Deb, Larry, for sharing your wisdom with us, for everyone here for showing up and being present. We have time for one quick question. If someone's got something that you're dying to ask, now's the time to do it. You can unmute yourself or raise your hand or just put it in the chat and we'll go with that. I don't see anybody that is unmuted yet, but
someone put something in the chat. Let me see.
Thank you, Deb and Larry.
Oh, it just says thank you. Oh, we thank you so much too.
Yes.
If someone doesn't have a question, maybe they have a comment. Like a comment, or has someone been on a podcast before? Has someone struggled sponsoring before?
I think Nikki's got a thing in a minute.
Got Mastermind. If you're a member of DSWA, we do have the Mastermind class coming up right after this one. So I'm going to go out and come back into that. So if you get there before I do, just know that I'm on my way.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.